Hey, what's up, PracTacular Home Crew? Welcome back to the shop. Haven't filmed anything recently because we've been super busy out here in the shop, as you can see. We've got all 8 almost totally complete. So I just want to do a quick update and then talk to you briefly about one of the last stages, which is putting in our craftsman style window casing. Okay, so I'll do a quick tutorial on that, but then we'll dig in a little bit deeper a little bit later. But wanted to just celebrate what these students have accomplished here. And the concept, of course, was we wanted to build a simulated kitchen wall, including cabinet and sink and plumbing and everything else that makes it function. And they absolutely killed it. So let's take just a little bit of a tour and we'll see all the different color combinations that they chose, which was kind of fun. But ultimately, they were able to achieve this kind of finish. So let me back up. Boom. Okay. Matching cabinet color. That was a nice choice. Everything functioned out. So we did finish electrical and trim out, which means we came in and we put all of our cover plates and then retested the system to make sure it was all functioning after tucking everything back into the junction box. 100%, beautiful thing. Then we added our cabinet and our sink and our faucet and our drain lines and everything that goes into making that work, which was cool. Then we brought in a off-grid pressurized water system that we have built here for our little cafe cart. Pressurized the line, checked to make sure everything worked. More importantly, we checked for leaks. Leak check, leak check, leak check. Because water is horrible for our home, so it was great. We had 2 that had a couple of little leaks, so we figured out how to fix that and then retested, and all of a sudden, 100% good to go. All right, so what I wanted to show you over here was one crew that is just a smidge behind, but this will allow me to kind of show you this idea of taking our finished window casings and being able to remove them, pull the brad nails, repaint it a different color, and then reinstall it and reuse it. Now this is something that I've been doing for years, and it just makes sense to me as both a painter and a finish carpenter that if you can remove the trim and casing, it makes all of your wall surfaces 100% easier, faster, better to repaint the color. And then we can take our trim and we lay it on a flat surface, and that allows us to quickly roll it out with a 4-inch roller, change the trim color, change the wall color, let everything dry, and then we simply come back in and quickly reinstall the trim work. Sounds good, doesn't it? Well, let me run you through it real quick, okay? All right, so this is gonna be our first tool that we're gonna use to gently remove the trims from the wall without scraping or scratching our paint, hopefully. And the nice thing about this is it has a nice beveled edge on one side, right there. And so if we put that beveled edge against the wall, allows us to just creep in behind, give it a little wiggle and jiggle, and then I pry back and I start to release those brad nails. And so I'm gonna start here at the top and then work my way down. And with very little effort, if we nailed them correctly, voila, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, okay? Some of the nails are gonna stay right there in, others may stay in the wall, and I'm gonna show you an easy technique with our standard pliers using a fulcrum. If you don't know what it is, look it up. But that makes it super easy to pull these 2 1/4-inch nails, super clean, and then we're ready to reuse, okay? So let's pull a few more of these off and let you see. So now I can come in here, again, tapered side down, wiggle underneath, pull, pull, pull. I kind of pry it, push it, pry it to get back right where those nails are, and use the, again, fulcrum of the tool to help pry it off the wall, okay? There we go, piece number 2, done. All right, let's keep working it here. So I'm gonna come across here. My pin nail's right here, so I'm gonna start as close as I can to where that nail is. Get that edge underneath. If I can move to a corner. That works really good too. And then I just push, pull, push, pull, so that releases, and then work down the piece as we go. Voila, piece number 3. All right, these craftsman style casings have 4 pieces. You got 2 verticals and 2 horizontals. And so we're gonna, when we reinstall, you install the verticals first, cap it with the horizontals, and voila, we got ourselves a beautiful finish. All right, so I'm gonna get this last one off here, give it a little tap tap to get underneath, and then just once you get the edge going, you can just work down the edge of the tool until you've got it totally removed. All right, I'm laying these up on my workbench over here, and I'll show you how we're going to pull those nails. But since we're here, let's try pulling these nails. Okay, so standard pliers. Here we go. See that rounded edge right there? That allows us to roll and pull or create a fulcrum that will help us remove those nails. So it looks something like this. I go vertical right over the nail, and then I'm gonna pull down, okay? Now, here's what happens. On the sheetrock, this is, again, paper and chalk crushed together. Don't wanna do it. So if I pull with that fulcrum, it's gonna dent my finished drywall. Don't want that. Hey, look, another use for this tool. Because if I put this underneath where my fulcrum is, now it's gonna have a metal surface that spreads the pressure over a wider surface area and allows me to go 1, 2, 3, pull the nail. See that right there? Awesome. Okay, let's do it again, but let's do it a little closer. All right, so here we go. There's the nail. So I'm gonna go right over the top and squeeze, put my tool underneath where I'm gonna pull, and then come back and stop. See, I kind of straighten it out. So now I pulled it a 1/2 inch, come back in, go all the way down to the edge again, pull the second piece, and in that case, it releases and we're good to go. All right, let's do it again up here. Put my knife all the way underneath, bring my tool straight underneath, squeeze the pliers while you bend down against that fulcrum, and then bend it straight. Take it again. Sometimes you gotta do it 3 times, but once that gets loose, it'll just release. Super good. Remove the nails, baby. All right, so now let's pull the nails from the end of our board. So in this case, same technique, right? I'm gonna come straight in at a 90 degree, grab it right where it's coming out of the board, squeeze and roll back on that fulcrum. Change your position, roll back, pull the nail. There's one. Right like that. Squeeze, roll, squeeze, roll, done. Right over the top, squeeze, roll, grab it a second time, squeeze, roll. There's 2, one more on this piece. Like so, like so. All right, there we go. Now with MDF, see how that little pull kind of pulls some of the material out flat or makes it extend past the surface. So what we're gonna do is we just wanna clear that off so that it's nice and flat so that we can put it back on the wall. All right, so now let's pretend like we've recoated and changed the color here and have recoated and changed our trim color and we're ready to simply reinstall, okay? So, hey, matter of fact, let's let there be light. Boom. Hey, that might look a little better. Okay, so then we're gonna use our 18 gauge cordless brad nailer, okay? The reason why this is important is I'm gonna show you because these nails are 2 1/8 long, but look how skinny they are. Super skinny. Okay, so that just barely puts a little pinhole, but it'll drive through the trim, through the drywall, and into the stud that is behind our wall. That gives it the strength it needs to actually hold it to the wall. Easy peasy, okay? So it's loaded, we turn it on, we got green to go. Let's put some trim up. Last tool we need is this fun tool again. It's called the multi-mark tool from our pals at Craig Tools, but we're gonna be using this backside edge. This right here is the secret sauce of this tool. Between this outside edge and the inside of the body, it measures 3/16 of an inch. 3/16, that's really small. And in the case that we want is we want our trim to be 3/16 off of this edge, 3/16 off of this edge. And with this little jig, we don't have to try to measure everything. It goes just like this, okay? So I'm gonna grab my first piece. This is gonna be my long vertical. If I put my jig against this wall, slide it up against the top of the jamb, then all I have to do is line up the top and make sure it's flush. Make sure it's against the vertical. Grab my tool, drive a nail. Slide it down here, make sure it's tight. Drive my nail. We're gonna go one more in the middle. Bada bing, you're done. All right, let's slide over and do the second vertical. That's over here. We're just gonna reverse the process. So I'm a right-hander, so I'm gonna switch this around so that I can have what I need here. So we set it to the top, make sure it's flush. Okay, drop that tool, grab my nailer, one and done. Slide it down to the bottom, tuck that against it. No gaps means our spacing is right. Boom. Okay, horizontals. Let's put those in, okay? The design calls for 1/2 of an inch of an overhang on both sides. So again, I'm gonna take my multi-tool, slide it up to 1/2 of an inch. So now I have a measuring tool I can use. So now we go like this. Set this on top. Measure the distance from there to the edge of the tool. Bada bing. It's in place. Drive it. I don't even have to measure over here because I know my measurements are correct. So that'll end up with a 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch there. Done, done. Last piece, same deal. Bring it up to the wall. Hold it tight against your verticals. Use your tool to measure. I put it against that edge and then slide the edge out until it meets the body of the tool. I know that is a 1/2 inch. Done. Whew. Look how gorgeous that is, okay? Let me come in a little bit closer and I'm gonna show you one more detail and then we'll finish up for the day. To make this system work when you're using medium density fiberboard, 1x4, so it's 3.5 wide, 3/4 inch thick, but it's shaped a little bit differently. And let me show you. All right, so see how this comes from the factory. This edge here and this edge here has a nice 1/8 inch round over shape, which makes it look beautiful when it's on the wall. But the minute we rough cut it, we've got to be able to match that same shape on both the sides that we cut, or the ends. So we're gonna round over these edges, make it look like the same. We're gonna round over the edge here so when it meets, you got this cool seam where it rolls into that one and then rolls into that one. And so when we put paint on all the ends, edges, and surfaces, it looks absolutely gorgeous. So let me show you the example at one of the other houses. Okay, so now you can see with paint and all reinstalled how clean this finish looks. We got this rolled edge coming into this board and that rolled edge goes into that board. You don't see any color differences because we painted the ends, the edges, and the surface. And then when you meet them all together, whew, creates that beautiful finish that we want as a craftsman style casing. All right, so that kind of finishes up this little tutorial, or for our students, this project called the kitchen wall build. And I'll come back and give you some more tutorials and details on exactly how we paint this thing and some of the other fine woodworking kind of things that we're using. But ultimately, we're heading into our spring break, so we'll catch you in a week. And the next big project we're moving into is the trebuchet build. Trebuchet. Another vocabulary word. If you don't know what that means, do a little quick AI Google and you'll get all sorts of information. But it is a mechanical build that's going to take everything we've learned in the last 140 days and they've got to put it together because this is their final project. We have a build section that they're going to be graded on. We have a launch competition for both distance and accuracy. It's a whole thing, creating all sorts of STEM project learning to kind of cap the year. So stay tuned. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.